Is the physical features and climate of Sub-Saharan Africa. This is page 10 in the Delegate Handbook. A large camel can drink 25 gallons of water in 10 minutes. It then stores the water in its bloodstream. Camels sweat very little, so the water they drink can last for weeks. Unlike a camel, a person in the desert can lose about 2 gallons of water in a day by sweating. Humans must replace water frequently. Water is more plentiful in some regions of Africa south of the Sahara than in others. Read on to learn more about the physical features of this region. Hey guys, the first question is comparing how humans and camels when it comes to water. So go ahead and answer answer number 1 on page 10. All right. Landforms of Africa. Africa south of the Sahara is more than 2.5 times larger than the United States. As figure 1 shows, the enormous region is made up of 4 subregions or small regions: West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, and Southern Africa. South of the Sahara extends from the Sahara in the north to Africa's south tip of the Cape of Good Hope. Africa south of the Sahara includes many islands off the African mainland. Madagascar is the largest of these and in the 4 largest islands in the world. It lies in the Indian Ocean near Africa's southeast coast. Scientists believe that it broke away from the African continent millions of years ago. Most of the other smaller islands were formed by volcanoes, plateaus, and lowlands. Almost all of Africa south of the Sahara lies on the series of plateaus. The plateaus are formed by solid rock that lies under most of the African continent. They rise like steps across the continent from the west to the east, as well as from the coast into the interior. Many of these landforms rise from about 1,000 to 2,000 feet. In Western Africa to 7,000 feet, or more in the east. The plateaus give South Africa south of the Sahara the highest overall elevation of any world region, more than 1,000 feet above sea level. In East and Southern Africa, the edges of the plateaus are often marked by escarpments. Escarpments are steep, jagged cliffs. Rivers that flow across plateaus drop suddenly at the escarpments to become rushing rapids or tumbling waterfalls. Escarpments create barriers to trade by blocking ships from sailing between the interior and the sea. Africa south of the Sahara has also some lowland areas. These include narrow plains that borders the region's Atlantic and Indian Ocean coastlines. Many African plateaus are low, sunken areas called basins. Basins form when tectonic activity is lifted up the land surrounding them. Hey guys, you're going to stop real quick. It says name the 4 regions in south of the Sahara. Here is your answer. And then on number 3, it says explain how escarpments affect river travel in the region. And there's escarpments. So go ahead and pause the video to answer those 2 questions about escarpments and the 4 regions south of the Sahara. All right. The Congo Basin in Central Africa is the lowest lowland area in Africa's interior. Take a pause, go back to number 4, and this area talks about number 4, the Congo Basin, how the basin was formed. So this talks about how basins are formed. Go ahead and write that down. Here we go. Although Africa is south of the Sahara generally has high elevation, it is only a few long mountain ranges and towering summits. In the east of the Ethiopian highlands, as well as volcanic mountain peaks such as Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya. Kilimanjaro in Tanzania is the highest peak in the region, rising at the height of 19,341 feet. The name of Kilimanjaro comes the phrase in Swahili language that means shiny mountain. From a steaming grassland below, Kilimanjaro's snow-capped peaks appear to be shiny in the sun. Even though the mountains sit almost on the equator, snow covers the summit year-round. The Drakensberg Range is in southern Africa. It reaches about 11,400 feet and is about 700 miles long. People call the eastern side the Drakensberg the barrier of pointed spears. This is because the mountain suddenly looks like giant spears sticking out of the ground. The Great Rift Valley. Few features break the flatness of Africa's large plateau areas. In eastern Africa, however, an amazing natural wonder, the Great Rift Valley cuts through the landscape. The Great Rift Valley stretches about 4,000 miles from southwest Asia to southern Africa. A rift valley is a large break in the Earth's surface formed by shifting tectonic plates millions of years ago. Plate movements created deep cuts in the Earth's crust, where the Great Rift Valley now lies. Volcanic eruptions and earthquakes helped create the valley's striking landscape.
Good morning, Cyclones.
Sorry about that. Let's keep going. The valley's floors lie below sea level in many places, while the valley's walls generally rise 2,000 to 3,000 feet above sea level. In some places, the walls rise 9,000 feet from the valley floor. Jagged mountains and deep lakes add to the region's beauty. Some areas of the Great Rift Valley have rich volcanic soil that supports farming. Waterways of the region. Africa south of the Sahara has numerous waterways. People in the region rely on these lakes and rivers for fresh water and transportation. Lakes. Most of the region's lakes lie in or near East Africa's Great Rift Valley. One of these lakes is Lake Tanganyika and is 420 miles in length, making it the longest freshwater lake in the world. Lake Victoria lies in a low basin and is Africa's largest lake. It is the world's second largest freshwater lake after Lake Superior in North America. Lakes in the Great Rift Valley provide fresh water and fish to people who live near them. Some Great Rift Valley lakes also serve as sources of rivers. Lake Victoria, for example, is the source of the White Nile, and Lake Tana is the source of the Blue Nile. The White and the Blue Nile meet further south in Sudan to form the Nile River, the world's longest river. Another important body of water is Lake Chad. It lies in West Africa. Lake Chad changes dramatically in size from about 10,000 square miles in the rainy season to about 3,800 miles in the dry season. Rivers. Africa south of the Sahara has 4 large systems: the Nile, the Congo, the Niger, the Zambezi. All the rivers begin in the interior plateaus and make their way to the sea. In some places, these rivers and their many branches are useful for fresh water and transportation, but geographical barriers limit their use in other areas. The same tectonic activity that produced the region's rugged landscape also affected the region's rivers. As you learned earlier, escarpments create waterfalls and rapids that make transportation on the rivers difficult along the section of the Congo River in Central Africa. More than 30 waterfalls make travel difficult. A railroad line was built to bypass the rapids. Go ahead and stop and pause because you're going to need to answer number 5, which says, what are the 4 main river systems in Africa? And then also number 6, it says, how has tectonic activity affected the waterways in Africa south of the Sahara? So this is really where you're going to find all that information in this waterways of the region. All right, last part. The Zambezi River in southern Africa plunges over a cliff, creating Victoria Falls, a series of waterfalls that drop as much as 420 feet. The thick mist from the falls can be seen miles away. Rivers that begin in Africa's highlands shape the land. Like many Congo, they flow through the plateaus and carve deep gorges. Steep sided valleys formed when rivers cut through the land. Other rivers are interrupted by inland lakes and marshes that hinder travel. For example, West Africa's Niger River fans out into swamps in southern Mali before reforming a channel that continues to the sea. Last part is mineral resources. Africa south of the Sahara enrich energy resources. Plentiful petroleum deposits are found along the Atlantic coast from Nigeria to Angola. Landlocked Chad and Sudan have large petroleum deposits. Oil has replaced agricultural products as the principal export in many of these countries. Other important resources include natural gas, which is also found in Central African countries along the Atlantic coast. Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and the Republic of South Africa have coal deposits. In addition, the region provides an important resource by means of fast-flowing rivers, hydroelectric power. One of the most important sources of hydroelectric power is the Oskambo Dam in Ghana. It holds back 2 branches of the Volta River to form Lake Volta, one of the largest human-made lakes in the world. The dam supplies hydroelectric power to several West African countries. Metals are among the region's most important mineral resources. Large reserves of iron ore exist throughout South Africa south of the Sahara. Zimbabwe in southern Africa holds vast amounts of iron ore. Coronium, which manufactures a mix of iron to make steel, is mined in Zimbabwe, South Africa, and several countries of both West and East Africa. Deposits of uranium used to produce nuclear power, copper, are also found in this region. Africa south of the Sahara has large deposits of precious materials. South Africa is believed to have half of the world's gold. Gold deposit, more than 300 miles long, is located in the Transvaal, a grassy plateau. South Africa is also rich in platinum, chromium, and manganese. Many gemstones are mined in Africa south of the Sahara, including diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and sapphires. South Africa is a major diamond producer. Not all of the diamonds are used for jewelry. However, some diamonds are used as hard substance. Industrial diamonds are used to make drills, saws, and grinding tools. The last question says, what effect do you think the physical geography has on the region's ability to profit from its many energy and mineral resources? Pause the video here, answer question 7. Alright, last part is climate regions. Fish ponds? Puddles? No, these holes in the ground are actually evaporating ponds in Nigeria. The water in the ponds evaporates, leaving behind salt. The plentiful sunshine and mainly dry climate of Niger speed up the evaporation process. Then people gather the salt and take it to the market to sell. Read this section and learn more about the climates in Africa and how the people affect the people who live there. Factors affecting climate. Africa south of the Sahara lies mainly on the tropics. As a result, most of the region receives a direct ray of the sun year-round, producing generally high temperatures. At higher elevations and latitude, the climate is very different, however. For example, the places with high elevation... sorry guys, real quick. Go back and answer number 1, which says, where do the people of Nigeria get the evaporation? Okay. Here's number 2. It says, let's go back. At higher elevations in this latitude, this climate is very different. However, for example, places with the high elevation, such as the mountains, are often cooler than lower lowlands, plains at the same latitude. Figure 2 shows that Africa south of the Sahara has wet, dry, and temperate climate zones. Rainfall varies greatly throughout the region. The rainforests of Central and West Africa receive more than 80 inches of rain annually. By contrast, the Namib Desert in South Africa often gets less than 10 inches of rain per year. Some parts of Africa south of the Sahara have long droughts, or periods of time when there is no rain at all. Droughts can cause crop failures and widespread starvation. Okay, answer number 2, which says, why do most of the Africa south of the Sahara have generally high temperatures? You're going to find it in this paragraph here. So pause it and make sure that you answer the question. Here is the next question as well. Why do problems do the people face as a result of long periods of drought? It talks about long periods of drought right in this area, and we're going to continue reading, so whenever you need to pause it. Suppose you were standing at the equator in Africa. Traveling either north or south would pass you through some pattern of climate zones, from tropical wet to tropical dry to the steppe and the desert. Tropical wet climate. A tropical wet climate is found along the equator in Central and West Africa. Hot temperatures and plentiful rainfall in this region support the growth of the rainforest. The rainforest is a dense stand of trees and other plants to receive high amounts of precipitation each year. In the rainforest, vegetation grows at several different levels. The forest floor has mosses, ferns, and shrubs. Above these, palms and other trees grow about 60 feet high. The tops of the highest trees form an umbrella-like covering called a canopy. The forest canopy is alive with tropical flowers, fruits, monkeys, parrots, snakes, and insects. Rainforests support an enormous variation of plant and animal life. Many tropical African countries rely on the sale of products from the rainforest, such as wood, for income. In addition, farmers clear the land for new farmland. They also depend on cut wood for fuel. All these practices have led to deforestation or the widespread clearing of forest land. The soil of the cleared lands, however, quickly become less fertile. Farmers are then forced to clear even more forest land to grow their crops. To preserve rainforests and boost their economies, some African countries are encouraging ecotourism. Ecotourism is touring a place without causing harm to the environment. Ecotourists thus help increase a region's revenue while preserving the environment. Tropical dry climate. Farther from the equator, rainforests give away great stretches of tropical savanna, 8 grasslands with scattered woods. In the climate zone, temperatures remain hot all year, but rainfall amounts are much lower than the rainforest areas. Rains are heavy in the summer but light in the winter. Savannas, grasslands are home to Africa's most recognizable animals, including elephants, lions, rhinoceroses, and giraffes. Because hunting and human settlement threaten savanna plants and animals, several countries have set aside land as national parks to protect them. Step. Continuing further from the equator, rainfall becomes more scarce, and savannas merge into drier steppes. In these areas, about 8 to 15 inches of rainfall over the course of a few months each year. Vegetation includes various varieties of trees, thick shrubs, and grasses. Steppe areas are threatened by desertification, the process in which turns fertile land into the land that is too dry to support life. Climate changes that bring long period of extreme dryness and water shortages can lead to desertification. Clearing these trees and other vegetation of hurting large amounts of livestock can also damage and dry out the land. Deserts. In very dry areas of Africa, deserts dominate the landscape. The largest of these is the Sahara in the north and the Kalahari in the Namib in the south. The Sahara has high temperatures and little rain. Instead of the sandy dunes, it consists of barren rock or stony plains covered with rocky gravel. Very little vegetation can live outside the oasis on the highlands. By contrast, the Kalahari in southern Africa is covered by vast stretches of sand. It has high temperatures and very little rainfall. When the rains do fall, they are immediately absorbed by the sand, leaving the surface dry. Certain areas of the Kalahari have trees with long roots that reach the moisture in deep sand. The Namib, along with the southwestern coast, is made up of rocks and dunes. This desert is arid, but temperatures tend to be cooler than others in African deserts. Because of breezes from the ocean, fog that forms along the coast reaches the desert and provides moisture to the varieties of succulents. Succulents are plants such as cacti with thick, fleshy leaves that conserve moisture. Last part, moderate climate regions. As Figure 2 shows, moderate climates are found on coastal southern Africa and the highlands of East Africa. These areas have comfortable temperatures and had enough rainfall for farming. Southeastern Africa has humid subtropical climate of hot, wet summers and mild, wet winters. The farther south you go in the Africa south of the Sahara, the farther you are from the equator. As a result, temperatures become cooler. Southwestern Africa has a Mediterranean climate. Here, winters are mild and wet, but the summers are warm and dry. Because the area is south of the equator, seasons occur opposite of those in the United States. Autumn occurs in April, in period when some rain may fall. However, most rain falls in the area's winter months, which are June through August. Highland climates are found in areas of high elevation in East Africa. Temperatures in the highlands are cooler than the surrounding areas because of the higher altitude. Snow often falls at higher elevations, and vegetation is abundant at lower elevations. That's it, guys. Go ahead and answer the rest of the questions. Again, the questions 4, 5, and 6 can be found in the last 2 pages about steppe climates and about deserts. So these are going to be the last 2 pages, 541 to 542. So go ahead and if you need to pause or whatever you need to do, make sure you